I think the decision came about just with the circumstances to COVID. Ideally, I felt physically still able to play the game at a professional level. Just unfortunately to the circumstances with the traumatic birth and just the way the world was at that time, it just forced our hand to go back home.
The emotion written all over the face of the departing Kevin Naiqama.
Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed right now with emotion. This moment, these boys, I love this group, I love this town, I love this team. But first and foremost, I have to give thanks to my Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ. Without this is impossible. I just want to glorify him in this moment. I want to thank the players, the staff, my wife Lily, she's been a rock the last 3 years here. Shout out to my daughter Maya, my family back home.
I guess I always had a desire to come over here and test myself on this side of the world and play rugby league in England. It was firstly introduced to me when I came and played in the 2013 World Cup for Fiji. Played England in Huddersfield, and it was a packed stadium. And obviously that was a lot of the Super League based players, a few NRL players in that England test side. And I think like playing against that sort of team, and they play a different style of footy where they move the ball a lot more here, and something that sort of interested me. And just I guess the challenge of coming over this side of the world and seeing how you go. So that was how the St Helens gig sort of came to fruition, and wanted to test myself. And I was very lucky to go to a team that was really on the rise and starting to compete for some silverware at the time.
When we first started dating, that was one thing that we definitely had in common. It was, if there was two or maybe three things, I'd say it was our faith, fitness and food.
It was faith and fitness for both of us. I think our lifestyles aligned massively. We are both very competitive, but I have renounced that I will always lose to him, which is annoying. But yeah, we both love fitness, obviously.
We're expecting a gift in December.
Our daughter Maya in December 2020. Unfortunately, I contracted COVID in the last few days of my pregnancy, and I was really ill. So ended up going into labour whilst having COVID, and then we went to the hospital. My husband obviously drove me, and when he dropped me off, he was then told that he wasn't allowed into the hospital.
First time expecting a baby, so experiencing all these emotions of your first daughter being born. And then I think I was also dealing with the time of being turned away at the door, so I was still processing that I'm not going to be there for the birth of my daughter.
So I went through birth without my husband, and yeah, it was really traumatic. I think with your first baby, you don't expect to birth alone, and you don't expect to be severely ill as well. I think my oxygen levels were really low, and then when she was born, they had to do like an emergency episiotomy. She wasn't breathing and she just was non-responsive. So there were a couple of minutes when she was like on the resus table, and I was just kind of on the operating table crying, just like, where's my baby? Is she okay? And it was just really, yeah, traumatic at the time.
At the same time, being on FaceTime to my wife in a car park, literally 20 meters away from her, there was just a lot of things going through my head. I was excited for the birth. I was angry that I got turned away, angry that I'm experiencing this, and just a whole lot of mixed emotions at the time that I was trying to process, but then also trying to be calm and support my wife through the phone. And I felt limited to that. There was only so much I could do, and I think what hurt me the most is hearing her pain through the voice, like her pain. Through the phone call, and knowing that I couldn't hold her hand or comfort her or be there to support her. That was probably the most challenging and hardest thing to sort of walk through with her. And then, well, she got rushed into emergency theatre, and that was probably the last time I got to talk to my wife, and then it wasn't until half an hour later that I got a message from her, and there was a photo of like our daughter being born, which was the most beautiful thing. And then also like that 30 minutes felt so long because I did not know what was going on in that time. Was she all right? Was baby okay? And you could only imagine all these things racing through my mind, and I'm just in the car park praying, hoping that baby and mum are okay and healthy.
And then we had to stay in hospital for a couple more days after because I was still sick, baby was still sick, and then Kevin finally got to meet her. I think it was like day 3. So it was something that we never prepared ourselves for, and it took me a while to process the birth and mentally be okay with it. Plan was always to bring Kevin's mum over for the pregnancy and the end of the birth to help us. His mum is very hands-on. So knowing even that we wouldn't have that family support, and at the time that I had baby or we had baby, there was intense lockdown, so we weren't able to have support or friends come and visit us. So it was definitely not what we had planned, and support-wise it was really, really tough.
It definitely took its mental toll, for sure, on both of us. And I think for me, when something's weighing mentally on me, it definitely affects me physically as well. And it was showing in my performances, in how I was turning up to training. And I try to mask it and turn up, but it's just, when something's weighing heavy on you, it definitely affects you.
At that time, to kind of paint a picture, we couldn't just pop back to Australia with our newborn. We would have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Flights were super limited. I think at that time to fly home, flights were like 10,000.
I remember when this was all happening, I was ready to go home. I told the club in January, so baby was born in December the next month, said I'm going home. And we wanted to go home immediately. But then, like, as Lily was saying, like, the flights were so expensive. But not only that, they had locked down the borders. Like, we could not go back home if we wanted to as well at the time. So Wolfie at the time, Christian Wolf, my coach, he called me and just asked, he's like, hey mate, are you doing okay? He goes, I just wanted to check in. And he could feel a sense that there was something in me that you just don't feel like you're yourself, you're not your smiley self. And so I got to talk to him a bit, what was going on at the time. And also, as Lily touched on, I lost a few family members, 3 in the space of 3 weeks. So they put me onto one of the therapists that I could talk to that the club provided. And I got to talk through with them everything that I was sort of experiencing, and it was really helpful for me. I think the most important thing for me, it gave language to how I was feeling. That was what I was struggling with at the time, and really helped me sort of navigate through that season, which is something that I'm grateful to the club. And it helped me get back mentally healthy, and their chaplain at the club as well, he was a key figure in helping both me and my wife as well through that time, that supported us and made us see that season through. I'm so glad I got to stay, because we went on to win the Challenge Cup and the Betfred as well competition.
Blazing for all to see. After 13 years, St Helens are Challenge Cup winners again. Back, they will tell you where they belong.
An amazing experience in England. We loved the team. Kevin was playing phenomenally, and they had won all the silverware. So in terms of footy life, it was everything that we had dreamed of, if not more. I struggled a lot with postpartum depression and anxiety, and I do think a lot of it was down to the trauma, thinking that I was going to lose baby. Thankfully for us, we have a great support network here in England. We have our faith, so we were okay, but it did get to the point where we just needed more support around us. We needed our family. I needed to get some help because I just wasn't coping well, I wasn't sleeping. And it was really hard being a first-time mum, and just, if anyone who's experienced postpartum depression or anxiety, it is all-consuming, and it takes away a little bit from that first-time experience as a mum. So it was a lot of different scenarios that were happening where we got to the point and we're like, we just need to get home. And for us, it seemed like there was no other option but to not sign a contract and to return back home and kind of just see what happened. It was scary, but it was what we needed.
With running to retire, like I still wanted to play, but there was just no offers coming through, and that's why at the grand final I was like, I'm officially retiring from professional rugby league, not knowing that there was still going to be opportunity to continue to play the game with Roosters, which ended up happening.
At that time he was retiring, we had no contracts. It was the 11th hour that Roosters came to, and honestly it was like a working holiday. We were close to the beach, we got to take our baby home, I got to go back to New Zealand to my family. That year in Australia was, for myself, really healing.
Now looking back on it now, it was just such an honourable thing for them to, I guess, lend me a lifeline, because at the time I thought that was completely done, if I'm being completely honest.
And what do you think you'd be doing now if you had stayed in Australia and you wasn't playing rugby?
Carpentry. I did my carpentry course when I was at West Tigers, and I probably would have just fallen into that line of work. I think also at the time it was very scary, knowing that there was no money coming in as well at the time, and like St Helens was my last professional contract. So obviously just planning around that, how to support your wife and your daughter, who was, at the time, she was around 11 months. So
halfway through, I turned to Kevin. I was like, I really miss England. So it wasn't Kevin coming to me, it was actually me going to Kevin. I think because we ended our time feeling like we weren't in control of how it ended. We wanted to have that control, or to have a choice, more of a choice. And I think after 3 to 6 months of being back in Australia, as most expats will know, home's always there. What we had in England, despite the traumatic experience, it was a chance of a lifetime. And yeah, we started talking together as a family about, can we go back? Is that even an option? We called his manager, and his manager's like, what? You want to go back? So yeah, it was, if not me going to Kevin, and then some long conversations, and yeah, here we are.
Kev's a competitor.
Big chance here, Naiqama against his former club, and it's over! Referee's happy to give it on field.
A real kind of competitor who wants to do things and wants to probably look back on his career and know he's had an influence on certain aspects of either clubs or players. And Kev liked the challenge, and what I spoke to him here was about trying to get this club to be better than where it had been in a few years before. And
Clune, and Connor's quick hands, and this surely is going to be the try that brings them level again. Kevin Naiqama, the latest across.
And what Kevin wanted to do was be a part of that and lead on that as well, and see if he could help us take the club to the next level.
It's a goal that I set out to achieve, me on a personal note, but I know that that's what the staff have here, their vision in Watto as well, who wants to make this team a team that challenges for silverware, and teams that are in the conversations of the Wigan and the St Helens and Warrington, and it would mean the world to me, but at the same time it's a challenge that why I came to this club, to make a Challenge Cup final with a different team.
Kev's been in big games.
Naiqama's been threatening all evening. Naiqama will get over the line and get the ball down. Naiqama gets the try.
He was at St Helens in 4 years of success.
3 in a row for Saints. The three-peat is achieved. An 8th grand final win.
He's one man in the match on a grand final.
Rob Burrow, Macy and Lindsay Burrow to present you with the Harry Sunderland Trophy. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you've done in the game. I really appreciate you, mate. You're a true legend, and I'm so grateful for this award, mate. Thank you so much.
So, just the level of experience he does have. Like I said before, the small talk he does have. He'll come over to me in a game saying, we've got 10 minutes left, let's just complete, get into the corners. Just small stuff like that, makes a massive difference. I don't think many people do know, but he's got a bit of good sense of humour.
He's how you doing?
This is textbook stuff from the general. Look at that. Nice.
He's a bit of a joker. He's always joking with Isan, Jake. He's always giving it to Jake.
Go say it. What do you want to say then? Go on, say it. You're a snitch. Always talking trash. Go say it now, say it. Just let him know who the real Jake is then. What'd you say, son?
Why is everyone's just looking heavy now because I think cameras are now?
He's been there, he's won it with St Helens before. That's massive. You can't teach that level of experience. You've got to taste it and be in it in them like dying moments when the game's that 18-all and your lungs have gone and you're not thinking straight, and being able to come up with the right plays at the right time, whether that's in attack or in defence. People like Kev can do that because they've experienced it and they've been through it before.
There's a weird feeling that you get around Challenge Cup Day, especially with a team like St Helens. You're expected to win things. That's the culture that they have there. You just had a general different feel on a Challenge Cup Day. It's a different competition. It's knockout stages, so everything's up for grabs. And I don't know whether it was the team or maybe it was more a personal thing, but I always felt like a sort of nervous energy around it. Not that it was a bad thing, but it was just a totally different feeling compared to a normal Betfred Super League game. And you could feel that. And like obviously winning it in 2021, I think it was after 13 years, it was the first time we won it. So for me, it was mixed feelings. It was one of celebration and I think a bit of relief as well at the same time. Something that we can, I think the pressure, it kept building up every week. Every year, sorry. Of how they're going to do it this year. And to get that, especially in my final year, was pretty special, and with a special group of players and fans. I think the history speaks for itself. And it's funny because when you talk to people about the Challenge Cup, they'd rather win that than, or everyone has different opinions, but it just seems like more lean towards winning the Challenge Cup as like a bigger thing than winning the Betfred. And for me, like anytime there's a chance to win something, it's just as important. So I think the big one is the history behind it. Like being one of the oldest cups in the world, there's so much at stake there. And as us as Huddersfield, we've put ourselves in a great position, and we're up against a really tough team in Warrington, and it's going to be a tough battle for 80 minutes. But at the end of that, there's a grand final waiting for that, and that's something that really excites me, excites the team and the staff here. And we're really going to go for it and hopefully put ourselves in a position to play in the grand final.
Yeah, it would be amazing. I mean, one of Kevin's purposes to coming back was he wanted to compete. He felt like he could compete. And what Ian is doing with Huddersfield, he, aligned with their values. It would mean a lot to Kevin to get back there, and for all of us as a family to just see him lift that and be a part of something with the new club as well.
There's a photo over there. That was the first game they come to the two girls, and I guess with my two girls now, that becomes my immediate family. So they've definitely taken up a lot of my time, so they keep me on my toes and keep me busy. But I feel like the second time around, it wasn't completely foreign. We'd already had a network of friends and people that we had done life with for 3 years. So not as hard the second time around. If anything, a bit more enjoyable under the circumstances.
We're about to hopefully go meet our baby girl.
Yeah, my sister.
Yeah, and I'm going to be here this time.
Yay! Our birth of our second daughter, Harmony, it lives up to her name. It was the most beautiful, empowering birth. Having Kevin there for the first time, it was one of the most joyful and painful, but most joyful times that we have spent together. And Kevin was just the most phenomenal, supportive partner. He was everything that I needed in the first birth. So yeah, our daughter arrived naturally, no intervention, no emergency situations, went into labour naturally, and she came into this world just in her own time. And I want to say I would do it again, but I don't know if I would. But she was very healing. We actually had 2 names for her, and I said to Kevin, once we have this birth, if the birth is what I hoped it would be, then we'll name her Harmony. So yeah, it was beautiful.
A totally different experience. The freedom that we get. We're not in lockdown and able to share that with friends. We've been able to travel. And just the small things, I think of, like going to a cafe, to a restaurant, it's been so much more enjoyable. Even a small thing of like a baby moon. We got to do a trip with me, my wife, and my daughter at the time, which was Maya before Harmony was born. and we went to Tenerife for a week, and there was just a nice little baby moon of just a trip of the three of us. And it's just the small things that you cherish that we never got to do the first time around. And I think the biggest one, of course, was just me being a part of that whole experience. It happened so fast, but then it was so slow at the same time. And I'm just so glad that I got to support my wife and hold her hand and just be with her in the deepest of her pains when she was really hurting, and just able to hold her hand and comfort her and letting her know that it'll be okay. And I think there's nothing quite like it, bringing life into this world, and to share that together is something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.